They're killing you.
I know. They're killing me. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another One Patriots Place Live. I am Thomas Murphy, sitting beside the one and only Karen Garegian, who has uh, decided to stick around today. Claire is feeling under the weather in a major way, and that's the only way that she would not be here today. She's very disappointed that she doesn't get to talk to Karen. But I promise to get to all of Claire's tight ended questions. We'll have the Claire corner coming
Mhm.
out. Karen, how's everything?
It's going, getting ready for a draft in a
I
couple of weeks.
know
Had
it's.
all kinds of excitement at the owners' meetings. I mean,
I
there's just
can't.
never a dull moment, Murph.
Never,
Never.
never. Not here in New England. Not here in New England. Before we get into anything else, I did want to talk to you about the owners' meetings. There's been a lot of dust up in the area, as I'm sure you're aware of, as to conflicting statements made between Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick, especially on one semi-free agent quarterback. What did you think of what Bob had to say, Robert had to say about this situation and essentially dumping it into Bill's lap?
Well, I think he kind of dumped everything in
Yeah.
Bill
Yeah.
Belichick's lap. Um, right before he let out the little Lamar Jackson story that he
Yep.
had from his pal Meek Mill telling him Lamar Jackson wanted to be a Patriot. Right before that, um, and again, this was in a private little side session after his
Yep.
major gathering. There was only a couple of us there, and he was asked about all the Patriots' low spending, you know, being at the bottom of the
Yep.
league in terms of spending, and what's that all about? And he couldn't wait to answer that question because once again, he made it. He made it. Tried to make it clear from his perspective,
Abundantly.
abundantly, that uh, every time Bill Belichick comes to him for money, he gets it.
Yep.
Anytime he asks for something, he gets it.
Hmm.
Uh, so, um, you know, is that being totally honest? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Uh, but again, this was all kind of a tit for tat thing because
Yeah.
it was Belichick who brought up
The
uh,
spending.
the spending. It's funny. I asked that question way back in January,
Yep.
and it was more about uh, a splash they made 2 years ago,
Right.
and he wanted to make it clear that you know, in his way of saying uh, that was kind of a one-time thing, and it all averages out because in the last 3 years we've been the lowest spending
Yeah.
team. But anyway, everyone took that as a rightly so a knock on
Yep.
Robert Kraft. So as I said, we're having this little tit for tat game between the two. Belichick won't endorse Mac Jones.
Right.
Robert loves Mac. So, we're playing these opposite games
Yeah.
between the coach and the owner. That
So
can't be good.
no. So why bring up the text from Meek Mill in the first place? Now, personally, I think that Robert is your great uncle or your grandfather that's trying to prove that he's still cool.
Yeah.
that that he's getting texts from Meek Mill and we aren't. And that's the way I took it. Now everybody else took it very personally, and of course, they ran with, well, why aren't we going to get Lamar Jackson?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could take it. Why would Robert drop that information out? You could
Yeah,
take it any number of ways. One, oh, he's a cool cat who gets texts from Meek Mill. Number one. Number two, we've a lot. Some of us have been writing uh, the Patriots are no longer a destination
Right. Oh,
for
there
the
you go. Good point.
for the
Yep.
the upper echelon players who would want to come to play new. I mean, in the past, it was never an issue. You had Tom Brady as quarterback. Everyone wanted to play with Tom Brady if
Mhm.
they really wanted to win,
Right.
have a chance to win. And since Brady left in the couple years since, either the Patriots have to overpay,
Mhm.
which they did to get that loot of players that they got 2 years ago, uh, or you know they're not coming. But so it was almost like, hey, look, Lamar Jackson wants to be a Patriot,
Mhm.
but I don't think he thought it out all the way in terms of, well, if Lamar Jackson wants to be a Patriot, why don't you go get him?
Right.
Right?
Right. And so a lot of people agree with that. I'm
Yeah.
not one of those people. I'm one of those people that actually looks at stats and games played is
Yeah.
kind of an important stat for me when people are talking about how much better Lamar is than Mac Jones. And I like to bring up the fact that this guy's, missed a heck of a lot of time over the past 2 years. What do you think of that? Would that deter you from bringing him in here?
It would give me pause,
Mhm.
especially at the freight, at
Right.
what it was going to cost. Now, if you can finagle the cost, you know, that's a different story. So, I mean, would I just blanketly not kick the tires? No, I would absolutely kick the tires, just to
Yep.
see, especially if, quote unquote, he wants to be a patriot.
Right.
If he wants to be a patriot, perhaps he's willing to work out something that's a little more friendly to the
Yep.
Patriots. But again, until you explore that, you don't know. So I
No.
would explore at the very least. At the very
Okay.
least.
All right. Personally, I just think that the style of play, his style of play, not that it wouldn't fit here. It's just that it wouldn't last. I've never been a huge fan of run first. Well, I wouldn't say run first, but run it for at first chance um, opportunity type quarterbacks. And this is a kid that grew up with a poster of Randall Cunningham on his wall and kept it
Mm,
there. It's the only poster that
mm,
was never a Patriots poster in my room. It it has nothing to do with style. It has nothing to do with anything except the fact that these are the kind of guys that do get hurt. And
mm,
and when you're guaranteeing this kind of money, that can be an issue.
mm.
Don't you agree?
Oh, for sure. But when I think what's ultimately the big picture behind any discussion of
Yep.
Lamar Jackson or any quote unquote top elite quarterback in a league
Mhm.
is, I believe, I mean, Patriot fans are worried.
Yeah.
They're losing the quarterback derby, and they never lost the quarterback derby.
No.
And the thing with Mac Jones is you don't quite know what he's going to be. But last year scared you.
Yeah.
uh,
There
and
lot of these are due to last season.
and Bill Belichick's failing to endorse him also gives people pause. But I think there's a lot behind Bill Belichick's not giving him, you know, saying he's the starter. I think Belichick doesn't appreciate or like the fact that
Thank you. There's a
that,
question, the third question
that,
down here. Go ahead and answer.
Mac was openly demonstrative during games,
Mhm.
calling out his handpicked guys, his handpicked coaches for him.
Yep.
You know the the histrionics on the field, and reportedly making calls to try and help fix
Right.
the situation, which I mean, I don't know if that's ever going to get repaired because
No, that
Belichick holds a grudge,
yep.
and uh, we see, not that it's a big deal, but they dumped Brian Hoyer at their
Mhm.
own cost, and Brian Hoyer was another guy who was behind the scenes during practices early on, kind of questioning
Yep.
the coaches, but rightfully, rightfully, but no, no, you can't do that. See
No.
ya. And perhaps, and I don't know this for a fact, Jacoby Myers might have been another one.
Yep.
So Bill's kind of been weeding out the guys who might have like asked too many questions of Matt Patricia and Joe
Mhm.
Judge.
Yeah, and I can understand that being a coach. There's one thing I do before every season, and that's have a meeting with parents. And
Yeah.
I tell them, I said, I don't mind if you question me. I don't mind if you want to come up to me and ask me something. Um, but just don't run me down in front of your ball players. Okay, because it makes my job a lot harder. I'll be able to explain anything that you're asking me from playing time on down to how I teach something. But when you do it in front of players, then it kind of undermines me. Do you think Bill get has that type of mentality also?
Yes, I do.
You
I
know, it
absolutely do.
yep,
And again, whether Matt Patricia and Joe Judge were the right choice or wrong choice, basically you were taking a shot at Bill by, you know, questioning his guys.
that's it. We got some questions in the chat room
Okay.
for you. And Buddy Andre, our fearless leader, who's very upset that I didn't ask him to come in today. Do you think the Ravens pull the tag after the draft if this drags on?
Um, hmm.
It's a good question.
It is a good question. There is actually a school of thought that teams uh, don't want to teams don't want to surrender the pick this year, the first
Right.
round pick this year. So it might be after the draft, and the same thing
Mhm.
kind of applies to Aaron Rodgers. That they'll, maybe it'll be day 2, day 3 that you'll actually see the trades or
Yep.
something happen after the first round goes by this year.
Mhm.
So,
They don't mind giving up the pick but they want it to be much lower, and there's a
right.
better chance
You know,
of that happening with said quarterback on your team.
right. So, I mean, again, the teams involved, the Jets, theoretically, if they get Aaron Rodgers, will be a much better team and will have a much lower pick. So, fine, you can have that Green Bay next year, but you're not getting where we are this year. And the same thing for whoever might want uh, to snag Lamar Jackson. Because again, the thinking is, especially if it's a team that's picking really high this year,
Right.
they'll get Lamar, and then boy, they'll be picking down toward the bottom. So yeah,
Yeah,
you can have that pick.
you can take
So
that one. And the
that's my
other thing,
guess. That's my
yeah,
guess.
and
Yeah.
since we touched on Aaron Rodgers, as I like to call him, discount double choke, and what he's going to do in New York. Personally, I think getting him into New York gives a bigger chance of him melting down the entire organization. So let's do that as quickly as possible. Um, but it does change the landscape in the AFC East. Do you think that he can come in and to put it succinctly, does he still have it? Can he walk into a new situation? Will he get the same kind of carte blanche that Brady did down in Tampa in installing his offense?
Well, the guy that they have leading as their
Yeah,
offensive coordinator was his guy in Green Bay, so I don't think that'll be an issue. And they've done what they could to bring in a lot of his guys
yeah,
or guys on his list. OBJ is still on his list, so that hasn't resolved yet. So they're trying to make him as comfortable as possible with players. I mean, they did the same thing for Tom Brady in
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, except it wasn't quite as obvious, you know. Uh, but anyway, if Aaron Rodgers goes to New York and basically stops being himself,
Hmm.
meaning a jerk.
Right.
Uh,
Thank you. Yeah,
I
I would have
mean,
said it if you didn't.
if he can just put him zip it and just do his job. I mean, he's with the exception of last year, he's been a great regular season quarterback.
Right.
It's just when the playoffs come that the
Right.
right,
That's it. Discount double choke.
right. So but again, it's a tall order for him to not muzzle it, nuzzle it,
Hmm.
uh, or start, go. He might really go crazy in New York,
Yep.
even though some would say he's already crazy, but it would be a little more obvious, let's
It
say.
would be.
Uh,
Yeah.
um,
The New York
but
Times and the Daily News get a lot more press than, or get seen a lot more than
right,
whatever's happening out there in Green Bay in print.
but if he has the chip on his shoulder like Brady has had
Hmm.
it his whole life, if he's out to prove everyone wrong, that he's not washed up, that he
Yep.
can exist in New York, if that exists within him, the Jets are in business until the
See,
playoffs come.
until the playoffs come, and
Right.
that's my point. A lot of people have made the comments and the statements that the way the AFC East is set up right now, it's not good for the Patriots. Now, I'm on the other side of the coin. I'm looking at this as a devil's advocate type thing, because Miami, Buffalo, and the Jets if this move gets made, they all have to play each other too, and it makes their lives more difficult too. Now, I'm of the ilk that the Patriots are still good enough to at least get splits with all of these teams except Miami, because we all know what happens in Miami. So that's a little bit of a hiccup there. But I do believe that the there's a regression in Buffalo, and there's going to be an uptick in New York. There might be an uptick in Miami, but they also might come back to the pack a little bit. Can you see this happening, where this entire division might go 500 against each other?
Yeah, that's not out of the realm. I was talking to Sirius XM NFL's Jim Miller out
Oh,
at the owners meeting, and he picks the Patriots to win the division.
does he really?
And I had to sort of first ask what he was smoking,
Okay.
but
Yeah, I smoke a lot, and I'm not even doing that.
right, but he mapped out, like you said, Buffalo is regressing a little
Yep.
bit. Uh, Miami is relying on a quarterback who could be done for the season and at moment's notice. And then Aaron Rodgers might completely upset the apple cart in New
Hmm.
York if he ruins the locker room, ruins and that those are all possibilities. And the Patriots should improve their offensively with Bill O'Brien,
Right.
a legitimate coach.
And Clem, don't forget Clem.
And
People
Clem,
keep forgetting
yes,
about Clem.
with maybe the offense can win a game if the other team scores more than 25.
Yeah. Another good question from longtime favorite Chris Godwin. How far off do you think the Patriots are from competing for a Super Bowl?
Well, they're pretty far off, I would say. Well, because
Yeah,
the reason
it's
is
1978 all over again.
no, I mean, I consider them kind of a middle tier team,
Yep.
not an upper echelon. They're not in the bottom, they're kind of in the middle. But I just think the AFC has so many good teams and good quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Until Mac Jones shows that he can compete with the big boys, and we
Yep.
don't know that yet.
No.
It that's going to be how long it takes, basically.
There you go. So it comes down to Mac and his progression, and I agree. I think bringing O'Brien in and bringing Clem in, two guys that are um, firmly entrenched in their duties and have a fantastic background in both of those. I think we're going to see a vastly different team on this in 2023 than we saw in 24. Just in confidence, having the confidence in their coaching staffs, guys. I think is going to be a big question. But I agree with Karen. We're a ways off from being a Super Bowl team, even with the I don't want to say the additions, the fact that Bill kept the band together on the defensive side of the ball, which brings me to my next question. How big of a hit is it that Devin McCourty is walking off into television land?
Well, it's significant in that again, he was the quarterback of the defense.
Mhm.
He was the brains of the defense, and that you know what he saw at the line, he would put people in their places.
Yep.
And if they wanted to mix things up, he would. Again, he had Belichick in his ear.
Yep.
So, can somebody else perform that role as well? Uh, to be determined. But
Yep.
but again, he had even as the deep safety, he was the guy that was orchestrating a lot of the defense,
He was the band leader back there.
the band leader, and basically putting them in the places that Belichick wanted them to be without really Belichick doing it.
Right.
So, can Jalen Mills do that? If Jalen Mills is doing that, can John Jones do that? I mean,
Right.
to be determined. I think they'll be okay, but again, that's a big job.
It really is. Let's talk a little combine, and I will get one of Claire's favorite questions in here. I know that you enjoy the combine as much as I do. And did you fall in love with anybody at the combine that maybe you hadn't been thinking about as a Patriot beforehand?
Um,
Claire.
yeah, tight ends, Claire.
Hmm.
The tight
Here
ends.
we go. Please say Washington.
Uh, the tight ends. Well, I knew before the combine because um, we had spoken to Daniel Jeremiah
Hmm.
pre-combine, and he kind of laid out the positions that were really depth wise strong or had a lot more studs than other positions, and tight end was up there. And even though the Patriots signed Gasicki from Miami,
Yep.
although he's kind of calling him a tight end might be a misnomer, but anyway, um, they're gonna need. He's on a 1 year deal,
Hmm.
and they're gonna need you know to bring some guys up and
Right.
and have somebody in the wings, but also Bill O'Brien is the king of the two tight end
Right.
offense. And he loves the offense to work through the tight ends.
Hmm.
So I can definitely see them going tight end. Maybe not in the first round, um, but second, third, fourth.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if
I
they grabbed one of the top guys.
Now, I kind of put this on Claire, but it just brings me to my draft crush, and that's Darnell Washington out of Georgia. I really like this kid. There isn't a tight end on this team right now that could block a sneeze,
Right.
and this is one young man that you can put on the line of scrimmage and run behind all day long. And if it doesn't work out, you can essentially just beef him up and make him a right tackle.
Mhm.
What did you think of Mr. Washington? What do you think
Well,
of
I think
my
I think if
crush?
you I can't I don't think you can go wrong with anyone from Georgia,
True.
number 1. And you brought up a great point because, none of the tight end Gesicki couldn't block a fly and wouldn't
Mm,
wanna block a fly.
right,
He's just not a blocking guy. Um, they do need I mean, they sort of got away with it a little bit last year by having an extra tackle
right,
essentially on the line. But let's put a tight end on the line.
right,
You know, who can block and maybe
right.
catch the football as well.
Just a little
Or,
bit.
so yeah, so I would say
And has a condor's wingspan.
Washington definitely fits that profile.
He really does, and I really hope I hear his name early on day 2. He's somebody that I would
He's
trade up
definitely good
for,
too, for
you
sure.
know? He's just a fantastic talent, and, I'm not saying that we can expect the second coming of Rob Gronkowski, because that's not gonna happen, people,
No,
but this is a kid that fills a need, and like I said, is basically a movable, offensive tackle. It's really fantastic. If you folks haven't had a chance to see any of his film, please go back and do so.
let me just want to jump right in
Oh
to
yeah,
one other thing. Again, um, the way I've been brought up on Patriot offenses over the past 20 or so years,
yep,
and dealing with all of their offensive coordinators, starting even with Charlie Weiss,
yep,
the thing you don't want to be is predictable.
yeah.
And the second if if Jasicki's on the field, that's almost like a signal that they're not running the ball.
Thank
Because
you.
so, but if you have another tight end on the field who can
Hmm.
block too, at least there's some element of mystery. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I do.
So, so I mean, that's a very important predictability. I mean, the Patriots were incredibly predictable
Hmm.
last season. You
Incredibly.
know, part of that was the play caller who only called the same play like 16 times,
Hmm.
and there was no variation off the play.
No,
Um,
there really
but
wasn't.
but you need to have variation. You need to have players on the field where it's not completely obvious.
Right.
They're going to pass, they're going to run. They're going to pass, they're going to run. You need to have an element of mystery,
There you go.
especially also since you don't really have a mobile quarterback. You have a pocket passer.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the advantage of a Lamar Jackson or his type is that teams are always fearful of him running.
Hmm.
They don't have that fear with Mac Jones.
No, they don't.
So, again, but that again, that takes away or that makes you a little more predictable.
Yep. What do you think? I keep forgetting that you can actually read this, but Joel has a good
Yeah.
question here.
Okay.
Um, should the Pats bring in a veteran backup for Zappy, or is there even somebody that they could pick up in the draft? I think the draft's going to have. Personally, I think the draft's going to happen first, um, before they bring in anybody else. But if they don't find anybody in the draft, then I think they should. What do you think?
Well, they had a veteran, but they dumped him because he was a little too outspoken.
Hmm.
A little too outspoken, pointing out the things that they were being asked didn't quite
Yep.
fit. Oh, and just to get back to that for a second. So they're trying to install Shanahan's offense
Hmm.
last year, and Hoyer played out in San Francisco
Yep.
in that offense, and yet he wasn't allowed to say, "No, you're not doing that right."
Right. That's it. There's another coaching point that I always have. There isn't
Mm,
a day that I step onto a practice field or a ball field where I don't learn something from somebody else.
yeah.
And usually it's a ball player.
Mm,
that's getting more and more prevalent as I get older and the kids that I'm coaching are getting older. They're in high school age now. I have no problem with that kind of input. I think I don't know why anybody except for fragile ego might. Well, you got some breaking news there or something, Karen?
mm. No, um, I just want getting back to the quarterback.
Yep,
I'd pick a quarterback every year or every other year,
yep,
just to funnel them through. Especially if you don't have a Tom Brady or Josh Allen or
yep.
Patrick Mahomes. um, I would again take a stab at it every year, every other year, and yeah, if
You
I
never
was
know what you're
coaching,
going to find in the
that's
sixth
right.
round.
Hey, they got Brady. You knew which round they got him,
Yeah, you
so
know,
you don't take a flyer on someone. Absolutely.
that's
And
it.
again, even if you take a flyer on someone, you can always get some veteran that perhaps you can stash
Right.
on the practice squad or whatever.
That's it. That's why I think the draft's going to happen first, Joel, before we know whether or not they're going to pick up a
Yeah,
veteran.
it's
But
gonna
no,
take
I
two.
think picking up a veteran, yeah, exactly. Doing both is still in the book. Not that Bill has ever been a fan of carrying that many quarterbacks. It's been a while. I think 2000 since he went into or broke camp with four. All right.
Right.
So
Well, he put it this way: they're going to have to add for training camp. You can't
right.
have two guys throwing their arms out in training camp. So you'll have camp arms,
Yep.
whether that's getting one more from the draft and one more veteran, and then we'll see how it shakes out after that.
Yep, and the one great thing about Hoyer that they're going to miss is not just the voice, but the fact that Brian Hoyer could go into the week running the practice squad and run anybody's offense, anybody's in this entire NFL, and I think that's something that they're going to have to think about this year,
Yeah.
because it helps. It really helps. Karen, when we're talking about the draft, there's been a lot of talk, especially from our friend Phil A. Perry, of drafting a local kid, and bringing in that wide receiver. Do you think the Patriots go wide out, and who could they target in the first round? I personally don't agree with Phil.
Yeah. Well, I know Zay Flowers is the
Yeah,
kid we're talking about.
thank
Me
you
too.
for covering for me
Yeah.
as my
Okay.
mind loses
Uh,
names.
well, I think the overlying point that Phil is making, and it's a correct one, is they don't have any dynamic threats
Yep.
in their offense. And even though they did get Juju Smith, and even though they got Jasicki, there's no one that a defense is going to sit back
And game plan for.
and like go, "Oh, we really got to watch this guy," or
Hmm.
that they have to game plan. There's just nobody that scares them,
Right.
really. I mean, maybe Juju Smith Schuster in his prime when he first started out
Hmm.
would command that type of attention. Devontae Parker doesn't. I mean,
Nope.
they don't have that guy who defenses fear. And and beyond that, they also don't have these dynamic playmaker types.
Right.
And I think that's why Zay Flowers is attractive to pundits is because
Yep.
he has an electric gear after he catches the ball that he could make things happen that you
Hmm.
haven't seen happen in their offense.
Right.
And and it's not that a lot of us keep talking about you got to get the deep threat, the deep guy, the deep guy that they got to
They
cover.
have the deep guy.
That's Tyquan Thornton.
Right.
We'll see. But if you had that over the middle, again, going
Right.
back to Bill O'Brien's offense, if you had that guy who would take the ball over the middle and then take it to the house, I mean, there's some comparisons, Zay Flower, to like he's a Tyreek Hill type or,
Hmm.
uh, just somebody who has that gear after they catch the ball that they can just see you later. And they don't have that. Can they, if they could trade down and get Zay Jones later. He's not at number 14. That's the
Right.
problem.
Thank you. That's my point.
So
If you trade back and you grab him at 29,
that's
I'm pretty
right.
okay with it, and you're
That's
picking up
better
something
value.
else.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So, but you know what? I wouldn't put it past the Patriots to trade down. My problem is they would probably trade down for a big guy.
A guard.
You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't trade down for the receiver. They would trade down with someone that we
Right.
hadn't heard of. We haven't heard of
Oh
because that's
god.
typically what they do.
We trade down and we get and make Claire happy and grab Dalton Kincaid, which wouldn't be a bad thing, but a lot of people are going to lose their mind if they end up trading down and it's Darnell Wright in Tennessee. Not I am not one of those people. I
Hmm.
am not one of those people because I believe that at least 40% of the issue last year with the regression in this offense was the
Let's
fact
see
that the
there.
offensive line.
He's the big tight end, so
Yeah,
he's
okay,
the top tight end.
that's it. Um, Jackson Smith Njigba is in town. He's here watching his brother play for the Pittsburgh Pirates. His brother's the starting left fielder for the Pirates, and but this young kid, we talked about dynamic. How would you feel if he was there at 14 and the Patriots didn't take him and did trade out and ended up moving down and even getting Zay Flowers?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he is. Some people think he's the best receiver on the board.
Me.
And with reason. I
Yep.
mean, he was in that Ohio State uh, collection of
Yep.
talent. And again, he might be the best one. He's a terrific route runner. It's almost like if you want to almost guarantee that you get a great receiver, that's the
Right.
guy you pick out of all of them. He's the almost the can't miss, receiver. And again, if you're talking about fits,
Right.
Bill O'Brien's system, that's the guy.
That's the guy. That's really the guy.
Yeah,
Honestly, if we're talking weapons and it's not a 6'6" round individual that is going to block, this is the kid that I would want. Now I make a deal saying that I think he's the best in this class. The other one that everybody talks about is Quentin Johnson out of TCU. This kid is just a force of nature, but the Patriots would have to trade up to get him, I think. And uh, either I would love to see here, even though I do think that it would block uh, the p- the the progression of Tyquan Thornton. I really like Thornton. I really do, and I think he got put behind the eight ball last year when he missed that time in camp and never really caught up.
yeah.
Um, and I just don't want to see his path blocked by
Right.
anybody else.
Well, the other appeal of Quentin Johnson
Yep.
is he fits more in the Devontae Parker role,
Yeah. Thank you.
and
The
Parker
X.
he's on the last year of his deal. So, you bring in a rookie and, kind of groom him
Yep.
or have him push Parker out right away.
There you go.
So, that's the appeal of him,
That's
basically.
it. This is not a particularly deep draft when it comes to my favorite position on the other side of the ball, and that's linebacker. I think
Mm.
the linebacker room is very thin here.
They
What do
think
you think?
they don't think that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about that a little bit.
They don't think
Um,
that.
yeah, the Patriots ended up bringing back somebody that I was really surprised that they did in the linebacker room, and like you said, they don't think that they're thin there. Why? Why don't they think that they're thin there, Karen?
I don't know. I think they think because they have great safeties who do the same job,
Mhm.
in terms of stopping the run,
Yep.
whether that's Duggar um, or Jabril Peppers. And so they think, they only, because they essentially play in a defense against the pass most of the time and not
Right.
against the run. There's only one or two linebackers on the field most of the time.
True.
And that's why, again, they don't put a premium on the position.
Not
And
anymore.
and again, when they have 5 or 6 defensive backs and most of those being safeties and safeties who are like the in the box killers, that's how they justify not getting a stud linebacker.
Right. I was a little surprised last year when Giovanni Tavai was re-signed during the year. I was even more surprised this year when Mac
Mac
Wilson
Wilson,
was
yeah.
brought back. And
Yeah, they brought him back for
the
special.
man didn't play the last 5 games of the
Right.
season.
Yeah, but he's a special team star. Don't you know how important that is? Come on, Murph. Get with the
I know.
program.
That's true. And I am a you know me, I am a special teams guy. I am an all three phases kind of
Yeah.
individual. But
So even though
this special
they're phasing out they're phasing out kicks and punts, but we still have to stock up on those special teamers.
That's true. We really do, and we need to make them a bigger priority than than anything else. What are the chances that Bill does shock the world and go defense in the first round?
It's
And what will the reaction be around New England?
what if he goes defense?
Yeah,
Well,
if he goes defense and it's not a cornerback,
yeah,
okay,
that'll
because
be
everybody wants, if he goes out and he takes the best defensive tackle on the on the um on the board or in the draft, if that happens to fall into his lap, what do you think the reaction will be from the professionals, non-professionals in this town?
well, I think if it was in the first 2 decades of his run,
Mhm.
people would just say, it's Belichick. He knows what he's doing. And they would live with it. But in the past 3 or 4 years, and especially with some bad drafts mixed
Yep.
in, yeah, I think there will be consternation. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Kind of thing.
Yeah. I just have it in my head that he's gonna take Lucas Van Ness at 14 and just send this entire world into a tizzy.
Mhm.
Not that Lucas Van Ness isn't a good
Well,
ball player.
it's just you have other needs that are, you know, you could get a stud there and fill one of your needs. Tackle, cornerback,
Yep.
receiver,
Everybody everybody in the
tight
chat
end.
room.
I would even
Yeah.
take a tight end. But
Alright.
again, you don't take tight ends in the first round. That's just one of those things.
Yeah, it's just one of those, but I mean, quite honestly, Karen, how many first round tight ends
Sorry,
have
Claire.
panned out?
Sorry,
How
Claire.
how many first round tight ends have panned out over the past decade that the powers that be have made such a big deal about over? And it's really not. It's the guys like Kelsey that you grab in the fourth round or Kittle that you grab after that end up
Intensely.
shocking
Second.
every yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the Patriots did do that, and they picked two tight ends in the third or fourth round one year, and
Mhm.
Devin Asiasi and I forget the other guy, and they moved up to get them, and they're
Right.
both no longer here.
They're
So
no longer. Personally, I think that was Bill trying to get rid of draft picks that year because he didn't have enough cap space. So he
mm,
just used them to trade up and grab the guys that he was going to get
that might happen
in a
again.
later round.
They have 12
It
picks.
does. Now, I'm a proponent of trading everything outside of the top
Yeah.
100 to get up into the top 100 this year because I think that's where the real meat of this draft is. There's some guys that are going lower that could fill out this offensive line. But for me, it's still go offensive line early. I'm going to tick everybody else off and go that way. I know what you guys are all saying and hoping, and Karen is even hoping that they go in a different way. But this offensive line is a bit long in the tooth. What did you think of the free agent moves that Bill made there?
Well, if you're thinking Riley Reef is your going to be your starter at right tackle,
Yeah, I got issue.
if they,
Riley Reef is older than I am.
yeah, and he's almost catching me. I mean, geez.
Oh God.
I mean, he was good in his day,
Yep.
but it's not his day anymore.
Not.
Now, if they draft a kid in the first or second round, I actually think Riley Reef would be a good mentor to the kid. You have Riley Reef there and have this kid in training, and eventually
Mhm.
the kid takes over. That to me would be a good scenario. And I know there was a question about Trent Brown, and you know, maybe Trent Brown in a better situation with actually having an offensive line coach and
Mhm.
an actual guy who knows what he's doing on offense. Maybe he'll be motivated to be the Trent Brown we saw under Dante Scarnecchia. And that was a pretty darn good
Yeah,
left
that was a
tackle.
great Trent Brown. You
Right.
know.
So, you know, if you get the great Trent Brown and you draft somebody that you put under Riley Reef's wing.
Mhm.
The other guy they got, Calvin Johnson, is more of a backup
Yep.
depth piece, and that's fine. They need backup depth, but you still need to fix the starting rotation.
Right.
And whether that means you're going to get a left tackle and move Trent Brown to the right, back over to the right,
Where he's happy.
right. So that's where it's at. But if the Patriots are content with what they did in free agency, that to me is trouble.
Right. But we have to remember, folks, that there's going to be more to free agency. Okay, there are more cuts coming, and
Mhm.
guys get let go, and you can pick people up that you didn't think you were going to be able to, 2 months ago. Don't you agree, Care?
I do agree. But the Patriots also have to realize that, while Adrian Clem will probably be an upgrade over Matt Patricia, uh, we don't know if he's Dante Scarnecchia. And
Right.
by that, I mean, for years and years and years, the Patriots could just throw him, you or me,
Yep.
and he'd make us somehow work on the
Right.
offensive line. He was he coached everybody up, and he could take marginal talent,
He made
or
a lot of fourth round picks, a lot of money on their second and
he
third
turned
contracts.
wrestlers
Yep.
into Pro Bowl guards,
Yep.
again because he was a great coach. I don't know if Adrian Clem is a great coach yet who can
Right.
make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what.
Yep.
We don't know that yet. But right now, I still think they have a lot of chicken bleep. And I don't know if Adrian Clem is capable of making that chicken bleep into chicken salad.
Right. Joel brought up, isn't there a June 2nd free agency cut down because of the salary cap?
June 2 free agency cuts. Well, I mean, I don't know what that means, but
I just mean that the people. I think he means the fact that people are going to get cut after June 1st because it works better for
oh,
a team with the salary cap.
yeah, I mean, you might again, it'll whatever it is will come after the draft. And again, teams are restocking with the draft and they'll assess what they have. And again, do they have the cap space to pay,
Right.
the draft picks? If they don't have the cap space to pay the draft picks they want to keep, yeah, then you'll see some veterans get the heave ho post draft, which will be May and June. Yeah.
That's it. That's absolutely right. Cornerback is another deep need. Who do you think in this draft would fit in here? And do the Patriots need? I mean, so much has been made about the guys that are on the roster now not being able to shut down opposing number ones. And folks, you got to realize that the Patriots go up against some serious opposing number ones that nobody shuts down,
Mm.
especially last year.
Well, cornerback is another very deep group in this draft. I mean, but again, if they're for their odds to go up for them to get the quote unquote
Right.
shutdown,
The Witherspoons,
right?
the
Gonzalez,
Gonzaleses. Yeah.
Joey Porter Jr.
Right.
Uh, they're going to have to make that pick at 14, if you ask me.
Yep. At
Uh,
least.
if they just want to again just have a very good corner who's not quite a shutdown corner, but a very good corner, there are lots of choices, second round, third round, that they could settle on as well. But again, when you're moving Jalen Mills to safety, that subtracts a starting corner,
Mhm.
quote unquote. You have John Jones, who
Right.
was good, but he wasn't great against the better offense,
Yep.
So you still need that stud guy. Is that Jack Jones? I don't know. He was in the doghouse at the end of the season.
Mhm.
So I like
But not
Marcus,
for his mouth, so that gives me hope.
right? Marcus Jones. I almost would like to see Marcus Jones on offense because again, dynamic weapons. He's
Mhm.
dynamic. He's the only
It
dynamic player
is.
they have.
He's the slot guy of my dreams, and
Right.
he just showed it last year, and I can't believe that they're not talking to him about doing this on a more regular
Yeah.
basis.
Well, he's a defensive back in his mind.
Yep.
And again, he could be a very good
Yeah.
slot corner. They had him out on the boundary as
Yeah.
well. And but again, he's just such a tiny guy. He's very
Mhm.
competitive like you wouldn't believe. But again, I to compete with uh Stefan Diggs and all the guys that you're going to have in,
And we got
maybe
Kansas City coming in this year. Everybody
well,
that's down in
the
Miami
Bengals
now.
are they got up the Bengals again.
Yep.
I think you need to get a little height in your
Just a little bit.
just a
Just
little
a little
bit,
bit,
just a little
just somebody that touches 6 foot, maybe
bit. Right,
6'1".
right,
That would be nice. I would like to see the other place that I would like to see them go early in this draft is at that point. The only thing that gets me is Bill has had so much success in drafting cornerbacks late and even bringing them in as unrestricted free
right.
agents
Yeah,
that that's the way he's gonna end up going.
right.
And
Because
and
yeah,
yeah, it just it baffles. I no longer do um, a what I think Bill is going to do column in the draft. I do my draft wish list every year.
mm.
The people that I want Bill to bring in, and if you had one wish, who would it be?
If I had a wish for him,
Yeah, if you had one wish for a player for Bill to scoop up in this draft, move up, move down, whichever, who would that be, Karen?
oh, one of the stud corners, Christian Gonzalez,
Yeah,
um, Oregon. Yeah, I mean, you need that in
you do.
to
In this league, you have
compete,
to have it.
right? But again, the way Bill operates, Uh, he'll find somebody late. John Jones was undrafted.
Right.
Malcolm Butler was undrafted. He will. John Jones the exception. He'll ride them. They'll be their top corner.
Yep.
He'll pay them their till their rookie deals are done, and then when it's time for them to make big money, J.C. Jackson, another.
Yep.
See ya.
Yep.
See ya.
See ya. And it's I just have it. He's going to end up taking Jalen Jones in the fifth round, which wouldn't be bad. At least he's 6'2",
Yeah.
but he's not Gonzalez, and nobody
No.
in this draft is. And I
No.
would just love to see the
But
trade up for him.
that would be my guy. I
Yeah.
would love it if
Okay. I
yeah.
I could take that. I could take that. Karen, I want to thank you so much for being here today. It's been a fantastic show. Um, but before we go, just one or two more questions from the chat room.
Yeah.
Um, the contract for Trent. Do
Trent
you
Brown.
think, yeah, do you think he should be extended before the season? Is this his last year in New England?
It depends on what they do in the draft.
Okay.
If they draft one of the studs in the first round who can ultimately take over, maybe they draft 2 studs.
Mhm.
Maybe they draft one early and one late. And again, that would kind of be the way they go, rather than again pay the big money, especially if Trent Brown has another year. I mean, they
Right.
didn't pay him. He was the best tackle in the game in
Right.
2018. He got outrageous money from the Raiders, and the Patriots just weren't going to go there. So, and according to Robert, you can blame Bill.
Yeah, you can blame Bill. You can put all the blame on Bill.
Yeah,
And one is
yeah.
do you believe that their relationship, this is my question, not from the chat room, sorry chat room. Do you think that Bill and Robert's relationship is becoming strained?
Oh, I think it's been strained, not
Okay.
becoming.
Okay.
I think we're already hit the strain point.
That's
Uh,
it. But
but that
what
doesn't, again, that doesn't mean they can't coexist and do their
right.
jobs.
And that
And it's the same thing, kind of, again, with Mac Jones and Bill Belichick. I would say their relationship is strained too. So, but when it comes down to it, and Bill Belichick is a big believer in just do your job.
right.
So there was a question there about possible contract extensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I all the players that were listed, Uche, Duggar, and Onwenu for sure. Uh, um,
Don't forget Isaiah Wynn's still out there.
oh,
Nobody's walked up to him with a bag
yeah,
yet. Wonder
I
why.
wonder why.
Wonder
On
why.
on that list, yeah, I would go with Onwenu, then Duggar, and
Yep.
then Uche.
That's it. And now's the time to do it. The Patriots have a ton of cap space coming up, not in
Next year.
2023, but 2024.
Yeah.
So to do it this year and finagle the cap, we'll get Miguel in there. I'm going to get this man a job with the Patriots. It's the last thing I do.
Mhm.
Get Miguel in there to figure out the whys and wherefores and when the cash is going to get spent.
Mhm.
Um, I do. I think it's a great point, guy, and it's something that they should do, and in exactly the order that Karen has it. Karen, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for
It's
having me,
always
Murph.
fantastic. It's always fantastic to see you. You are definitely, as Claire says, my favorite guest. You are my guest crush,
Aw.
and I just really enjoy being able to spend time, and someday we will. We'll get to sit down on a front porch and just have some lemonade and talk Patriots forever. Karen doesn't go back as far as I do with the Patriots, but she's another local, and it's just nice to be able to talk with somebody about how great Russ Francis was, because
Ugh.
even Claire
He
can't
was
do
my
that.
crush
I know.
way back.
It was my mother's too. I sat there, my mom, and she was just, oh, Sonny, I'd leave you for Russ Francis in a heartbeat. But tell everybody what you've got going on right now, and what your partners over there at the Boston Herald are doing. It's just there's
Well,
no better coverage in this town or anywhere in New England than you guys put out.
right now it's all about the draft.
Yep,
It's all about uh, my colleague Andrew Callahan does his like 7 round drafts. I do a mock draft where
yep,
just the first round, and we do various things surrounding the draft, focusing. We'll get more specific position groups and what who
yep,
we like in every round. We'll have I'll take cornerbacks for instance, and I'll pick. Here's who they should take if it's the first round. Here's who they should take if it's this round. On and on and on. So it'll be all draft all the time.
we love it. It's the most wonderful time of the year, people.
Mhm.
We all sit there, Karen and I and the guys, and we get out our Sears wish book, and
Mhm.
we start circling and we start circling and we start circling. And Karen and I both want the same present this year, and it's Gonzalez.
Right. And the one thing I can tell you that is absolutely for certain, there will be very few, if any, picks by Bill Belichick that are on any of our lists.
Right. That's it. But you know, if they came out of the first two rounds of this draft with Gonzalez and Washington, and then filled out the offensive line
Stunning.
somehow, trading back up, I would be a happy camper. Karen, thank you so much for being here. I hope can we have you back maybe the week after the draft so we can go over our broken hearts?
Yeah, yeah, you can have me whenever you'd like, and hopefully Claire will be feeling better at that
I
point.
know. I
I miss
know.
Claire.
So do I. You know, I'm a better person. People think that I pick on Claire too much, but it's just like an older brother picking on his little sister. Nobody else is allowed to say anything bad about Claire
Mm,
except me, folks. That's it. That's it.
mm,
And nobody really would because she's just a doll. And we did. We missed you, Claire. Thank you for putting up with running the show for us behind the scenes. We want to thank everybody at E2G for bringing us to you every single week. Thank you to folks in the chat room who come out every week and just ask the best questions. You really do. I mean, so some other shows may get 100 or more people in the chat room during the day, but they, I'll take you guys over them any single day of the week. Until next week, I'm not sure who's going to be with us, but I am Thomas Murphy. That is Karen Garigian, and behind the scenes is Clazzy Clare Cooper, the one and only. And so thank you very much. We'll be back next week with another show, folks. Please keep tuning in.